Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube. Welcome back. If this is your 16th Season 2 episode review for Nancy Drew. So once again, my microphone disconnected. Well, it didn't disconnect. It wasn't properly plugged in apparently, so I sounded like a chipmunk throughout my entire recording. So I have to redub myself or redo my entire VL session. So I'm not mad at all, but it sucks whenever you're doing this sort of thing and then just suddenly one piece. I might as well maybe get a backup audio track going just in case if this thing ever happens again. So, yeah, that'll be fun to do. So anyway, this week on Nancy Drew, this was very much what was the term I use in the review? Because here's the thing, when I do these re-recordings, all my brain power just goes away. It goes straight into the first one, and then if I have to do the second one, I'm like, damn, what the heck did I say? It wasn't. This episode definitely felt more like pandering towards the finale, the final two. This didn't feel like filler per se. I felt like they could have chunked a lot of the fat off, more to speak. I don't think anything progressive happened. I mean, you could say a couple things like, oh, we were seeing the turn, or we were just seeing storylines progressing, and they were, but it wasn't necessarily the way that I would have preferred seeing it. It's very weird to say. It is, because I still like this episode for what it is. I just definitely felt this could have been done another way. This could have been. But anyway, you know what? Let's just go for the butcher recap and talk about this week's episode in full, because I'm starting to get a little bit enamored by that. So we begin with a nightmare sequence. Nancy is dreaming of herself at the Hudson party. Something happens because I literally missed the first 30 seconds. Mr. Everett Hudson has done something terrible, and Nancy's a witness to it, and because she's a witness to it, she gets literally slashed in the freaking neck, and thankfully it's a nightmare, so Nancy wakes up screaming. Mr. Drew comes in to comfort her, and but even with that dream, with that nightmare, it still very much could happen, since Everett is a man who has no limitations. He'll do whatever he wants to get the means done, to be honest with you. So she's got a worried son, but she also has an upcoming meeting with him. So could this come to pass? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But even when Mr. Drew kind of begs her, you don't really need to do this. There can be another way to not deal with Mr. Everett directly. She's basically like, this is the only way, because if we don't do anything else, my life's on the line, everyone else's life on the line. I need to protect everyone, which I clearly understand and get. Meanwhile, for everyone else, Sans, George, and Bess, everyone's kind of on team. We need to take down Everett. All the attention's on there right now. And thankfully, they do have a kind of a break in the case, since Ryan and Nick has joined forces with Val, the reporter, because she has actually managed to get in touch with a man who supposedly has this mysterious big tape that could basically take down Everett and everything he's done overall in his life. But even when he is late for his interview with Val, this paints a suspicious, okay, something's up here. Something's really up here. So the three of them decide to head over to the hotel to go pay a visit to him. Also, George and Bess not really doing much this week. They're background support. Also, they're the only storyline beat they have this week is that Bess is trying to move on from Odette, since with George and all being and Odette still sharing the same body, and George being the main owner of it, Odette and Bess can't be together. So Bess is trying to move on per se with someone else, and she decides to go on a dating app. And for some reason, I can't believe there is a dating app for specifically dating in Horseshoe Bay. Horseshoe Bay is a small ass town. So I can assume that you could probably find someone in walking distance. Do you really need a dating app for it? I don't know. It's weird. But initially, she's a little bit kind of not down for the idea, since she doesn't feel like, she's ready to get back out there. But after reading her latest draft of her dating app, she has a little confidence that, yeah, you know what? Put yourself back out there. Will we see anything come out of the season? Probably not. We'll probably see more of that next season. But that's really all their story beats for the week, because Nancy goes off to visit Everett, and Everett is aware about Nancy's detective skills, of course, and considering the fact that his wife has played such a huge point of, vouching her so many times, then he decides to test her and prove her loyalty to this family by trying to solve a little bit of a case. that when he was in jail, some of his accounts were frozen, so his remaining accounts need to kind of be transferred out and in very due diligence, as well as to be very checked off. And there's a couple loose ends that are not to Everett's, comfort levels. So he wants Nancy to hunt down one of his loose ends, which is I think a former account of his or something. I really don't remember. Which is coincidentally the same person that Ryan, Val, and Nick are currently trying to look after. Which, when Amanda's house, Amanda's help, they head to the hotel into his room, but it turns out he died. He OD'd on some pills. So their best lead to kind of taking out Everett once again falls through the cracks. Amanda goes in to call the cops, but the three have other motives that they need to pursue something else because they can't literally just stay stationary for long. Otherwise, Everett will get the jump on them. I believe at some point Nancy does try calling into them, but they're trying to stay a little bit distance to Nancy, trying to let them figure this thing out on their own. Which, at this point, they would assume like Nancy is not just going to stay around and just play, stagnant. She definitely is going to get involved somehow. But even when she's trying to figure out stuff on her own, she even hits up her grandma, the wife to Everett, and she's being a bit weird because, of course, she's planning for this big party tonight, but also she just sounds different. She doesn't sound like the Cecilia that we've been knowing for a while. But that's besides the point for now. I believe Ryan and Nick get a lead somewhere. Where did they go? I think they got a lead to, like, everyone just conveniently goes to the prison, where I think they were just checking the last moves of this guy, and he went to visit a prison, Horseshoe Bay Prison. I believe that's the name of the prison. I don't really remember. And what they find is that the person he was visiting was Amanda and Gil's father, who's also in prison for stuff that I completely forgot why he was in prison for. So Amanda and Ace go ahead to talk to the man, and he's being a bit of a dick, being a little bit of like a condescending person, as he doesn't really want to give out any information for said reasons. But he eventually does give in and admits that he visited. This dude visited him, more about this tape that exists that will pertain to details. But once Ace and Amanda revealed they're involved in it, he kind of stops talking and said, look, you need to back off, get away from this, because the more you dig into it, you're going to be on Everett's crossfire and you're going to die. So they really have no other choice but to stay a little bit distant for now, but because he immediately stops giving out information and requests to be returned back to his cell. Around the same time, Nancy somehow gets wind of this information and decides to go ask one of her guards that owes her a favor. And while he couldn't let her go back into the prison, he definitely gives her the insight that he came over to talk to him about stuff. And I forgot what the context of this was, but eventually they all lead to a place where Nancy gets the idea to think like, how did he get from the hotel to the prison? Like, he's gonna to have some sort of vehicle, and he did have a car, so she manages to find his phone somehow. I forgot how he got his phone, or did he hack into it? I really don't know. Sorry, I was drinking my tea because my throat is ever so tired in my delirious attempt to finish this review, so I apologize. I believe Val was also waiting nearby because she had to go to an interview with Mrs. Hudson, but she's a no-show. However, once Ryan and Nick get wind that Nancy might have found a lead in the car or the notebook, a misplaced notebook, she wants Val to go and check in on her and see what they can find out. The two cross paths while Nancy's about to get into his car and finds a private notebook which has some coordinates on it. So, however, Nancy's not able to get much of this information as she finds out that the other woman is there, Val, the reporter. The two have a brief stand-up as both have their own, reasons for having this notebook in their possession. But even that so, Nancy does not give in, throws the notebook back, and basically locks it up again and says, now we both can't have it. Well, Val could just easily come back in the middle of the night and just break the freaking window open. She doesn't really need the key, to be honest with you. The guy's dead, so who's going to care? So I believe from there, I think Val regroups with everyone else, because even though that Amanda's dad doesn't give them much information to work with, they somehow get this stash of keys that he's been saving since his groundkeeping days, which pertains to the Hudson family. Even Ryan identifies one of the keys to be his old Porsche. So they look around, they find this mysterious one that has a greenhouse. What's the name? Keychain attached to it, but Ryan said they never had a greenhouse, so this has another meaning to it. They try to like figure out some stuff about it, and they kind of interpret this could be a what's the name of that? A crypt house where they instead of burying the bodies underground, they buried them in like a stone building and just slide them in and out, that sort of thing. So that's the next big shot to go in and investigate. I believe at some point Nancy does revisit with Mrs. Hudson again, but she's even more strange, even with this interpretation. Like she's not herself. She's not really. She has a feeling that Everett is getting onto their suspicions, but she doesn't seem like herself. But even with that conversation, Nancy decides to head back home, does some home research. She gets a call from Everett, who's not really satisfied with her progress thus far, as he was kind of hoping that she already had cracked the case. And even Nancy does give him some false information, since she's still like really debating if she should give this information to Everett. But even that in May, Nancy's more focused on now the party and putting on the Swift that Tom Swift. I keep doing this, like putting on the dress that Tom Swift gave her at the end of the last episode. Also, the text font that's on his business card, I'm gonna be honest, that better be the logo font for his show. I really like it. I can imagine seeing that for multiple weeks if I was supposed to review them. So she puts on the dress. Mr. Drew has kind of like that weird like prom dad moment where like he just wants to take pictures of her in this fancy dress, and she even knocks out the old camera, the one that you get the photo fresh printed out, that one. It's like, it's so cute. And he also advises Nancy to just be careful, don't walk in any of Everett's traps, and then that kind of like rings a bell in Nancy's head that Ryan and Nick might be heading into one of Mr. Hudson's traps. So she attempts to hit them up, but however, the three doesn't want to have any contact with her, since they're assuming that she'll ask them to back out. So they decide to proceed into the crypt house, trying to find anything, that would sustain to a hiding spot. So they just decide to break open all the crypts. And even Mr. Hudson, for a snidey, very guilty man he is, I don't think he's that sick enough to open up a dead man's or dead woman's casket and just put in a tape in there as they're debating this, should we check the caskets for the tape? But Val finds this one crypt that isn't that old, is very undusted, and it's very fresh in terms of like the panel. So they assume this is the one, but as they're about to break in, Nancy barges in, at least pulls Nick away to like prevent the camera from catching him, because there was a camera feed behind the door. So Miss Everett knows that Ryan and Val are on his ass, and now that he has identified potential betrayers in his family, they're on the crossfires right now. Nancy blows up in front of them, since she's mad that like all the things that she's been doing to protect them has been mostly for naught, since now Ryan and Val are now going to be killed by Everett, because remember, Everett gives no fucks about his own children or anyone close to his family, because like at this point it's just whatever Everett has to do to survive, that's all he cares about right now. So Nancy in a haste decides to leave them and heads to the party to at least find some way now to protect them before they die. So she heads off. Nick takes Ryan and Val back to the Claw, because they need to prepare them for leaving, because they got to escape town. They can't be in town for this, because Val's now got a big target on her back. So they pack her up the nicest, sweetest, running away bag full of food, sardines, sweaters, books. It's nice. Even Ryan gives her like a freaking, I'm pretty sure like $100,000 in change or something. But Val doesn't want to leave. She wants to stay behind and help Ryan fight the good fight. Ryan says, no, like, I've already lost too many important females in my life. I can't lose you too. Indicated that, like, yeah, he does have feelings for her, as the two shared their first kiss. Which, honestly, it's kind of a comfort level between them. I don't really see much interest between them, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I don't know what the hell they're doing after show hours, but anyway, Nancy heads up the party. She runs into Mrs. Hudson, attempting to recruit her to kind of like hide Ryan's involvement in this matter, but she's still acting weird. She's morely focused on finding these champagne floats or flongs or something. So they head to this very suspicious dark corner in the area, and Nancy finds like a puddle of blood, and she looks up. It turns out to be the dead body of the real Mrs. Hudson. So I'm just realizing to myself, like, who are you? She turns out to be a ghost haunting Nancy, or just a figment of Nancy's imagination. Like, I don't exactly remember which it was, but she's not real. She's not the real thing. It isn't. So Nancy realizes that like all she's been doing could really be for nothing, since if Mr. Hudson is willing to kill his own wife to protect him, then he's not going to give a damn about his own son and daughters or his own, direct family. So Nancy's basically screwed at this moment. Like, there's a good chance that, like, they could die. Well, she could die and everyone else around her could die. So Nancy's trying to realize, what does she do next? What is the next thing to do? We had a brief scene where Mr. Drews is admiring a photo of Nancy. The photo that he took of Nancy before in her dress. And he finds some mysterious, scratch marks on her arm. And the picture doesn't look right. And Mr. Drew has a worry that, like, something might be wrong here. Back at the party, Mr. Hudson is getting acquainted with the photos on the video feed, and he's very disappointed. And he says, "Yeah, kill Val, get the report out of the way. I'll talk to my son myself." But Nancy's waiting for him in the limo. She knows what's up. He knows what's up. And Nancy said, like, "You've been focusing so much of your time on the wrong people you think is your enemy, when in reality, I'm your biggest enemy." And she freaking takes out a taser and shocks him in the nipple, which I'm like, ouch. That's gotta hurt. And turns out Gil's the driver, and, they drive off with Mr. Hudson passed out somewhere to God knows who else, as basically Nancy's turned to the dark side to take care of Everett once and for all, which ends off the episode. So, I really did enjoy this week. I really did. I felt like more of the beginning was kind of like more pandering. Did we need to see, like, I know Bess and George were, like, there this week, but, like, they could have just been cut out. A throwaway line of, like, oh, they're working, like, someone's got to work at the claw or something's got to be done. That would have been a perfectly fine line to do. I definitely do think Nick and Ryan running around town kind of didn't really do much for me. I mean, that's my opinion. But overall, I still think this was a good episode overall. I just didn't think it was one of the strongest. And definitely this was kind of like pushing things back, setting things up for a finale. Nancy turning over was kind of unexpected. I wasn't really expecting that. She kind of had more of a Nancy Hudson type feel than Nancy Drew. So it is very scary what she's going to have to do, like, kind of try and fix this sort of issue. But even with that being said, I'm very curious to see how they're gonna really figure this out and keep this going. Like, is Nancy gonna cross a line? Is she going to, like, do something severe to take down Everett once and for all? Like, I really don't know what's gonna happen. I really don't know. It's like it's all hands on deck right now. Also, Everett, very bad end. I mean, you basically killed your wife. I can't forgive you for that. Whatever happens to you next, man, you kind of deserve it. But with that being said, I'm going to give this episode 1.5 thumbs up. I still think it was a good episode. I definitely felt like this was just more set up for the final 2 episodes, which hopefully will be pretty good in the long run, but we'll see what happens next week. So I think that's going to do it for me, everyone, since I'm a little bit tired. And I apologize. This is not me normally. You understand. I had a long day. I always have a long day every time I do these recordings, these episodes. Oh, man. So everyone, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX, reviewing every episode of the 2nd season of Nancy Drew. If you want to see more of our What's on the Tube show, we're currently doing Walker episode reviews each and every Friday mornings after a brand new episode, on Thursday nights on the CW, or free the next day on the CW app. We are also doing High School Musical, the series episode reviews each and every Saturday mornings after a brand new episode, on Fridays on Disney+. We were doing Rookie Season 3 episode reviews each and every Monday mornings after a brand new episode on Sunday nights on ABC or on Hulu the next day. However, that season is currently wrapped up, so we are currently going to be doing a Season 3 review this coming Monday, spoiler free, so get tuned on that, as well as a Season 4 predictions video the week after that. But if you only care about Nancy Drew, you're in luck. We'll be back next week for the penultimate episode, so can't wait to see how they're going to really, like, put things to a boil, see how this whole Everett thing's going to blow up. I'm really excited. I'm really curious to see how things are going to turn out. But we are approaching the end of the season, so the week after next will be the season finale. So once we're done with the season, the week after we're done, we're going to do a Season 2 review of the whole season, no spoilers included. And the week after that, we're going to do a Season 3 predictions video. So stay tuned for all that. But again, if you're unaware, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more of us, please subscribe to ActionX on YouTube.com. Ring that bell for notification when our next review is live, which is normally each and every Thursday mornings. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it helps us get us out there to other members of the Drew crew who has yet to discover us. It helps us beat up that YouTube algorithm that really hates me so, and sharing is always for free. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates for the channel, as well as for all you members of the Drew crew. I'll see you all next week for the penultimate review. But until then, let me know in the comments below what did you think of this week's episode. Sorry if I sounded so dead this week. I really apologize. But until then, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.